Good morning, friends. Ooh, went outside this morning for FCA, so my hair's a little crazy. What's new? Today, you are still doing math I learn. So, I am not going to be able to meet with you today. That's okay. We'll get it sorted out. For the meantime, I'm going to walk you through the three branches of government. This is something that we're just covering briefly over the next week or so, and then we might come back and cover it in depth a little bit more. But yeah, so our government is made up of three separate parts, okay? The legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch. All of these branches are equally important, and they are all equally able to hold each other accountable, okay? They all also have different jobs, and I'll kind of walk through what each of those are, okay? So the legislative branch, that might be a branch that you're slightly unfamiliar with, okay? The legislative branch is a branch that is made up of two separate parts, okay? It is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate, okay? Together, those two groups are called Congress, okay? So I'm going to write this in. The House of Representatives plus, we'll put my plus sign up here, plus the Senate equals Congress. The House of Representatives is a group of people that are set up and voted in by us, the people, to represent us. They are based on population. So think about like New York or California. Lots of people live there. Not a lot of people live in Alaska. So in the House of Representatives, you get a certain number of votes of people who can be part of you based on, my screen just glitched a little bit. I think we're still okay, right? Okay. Based on how many people live in your area. So there are 435 people that work in the House of Representatives. The Senate, on the other hand, they tried to be more fair based on how many states there are. So there are 50 states. The Senate is a group that gets 2 votes per state. So there's 100 of people in the Senate. Together they make the Congress, okay? Their job as a branch of government is to make laws and changes. They can also establish taxes. Okay, they are the only people that establish taxes. That's their job in government. They make the laws and they change the laws and they establish the taxes. We're going to talk about it. There's a lot of discussion about how presidents make laws. That's actually not true. A president can make an executive order, but a president doesn't actually make the law. We'll come to that in a sec, okay? The executive branch is the president. The president, you've heard of them, but it also includes the vice president and the cabinet, which is a silly name, frankly. Sorry, we got a little hubbub in the hallway. The cabinet is made up of people that the president chooses to help him or her make decisions. Okay, so that's the president. He is the executive branch, basically by himself with just his VP and cabinet. Okay, his job is not to make laws and is not to establish taxes. He can't do any of that business, or she. Okay. The job of the executive branch is to execute the laws. What that means is that he or she makes sure that the laws are enforced. Meaning he can push the laws through and he can say, okay, everyone has to follow this law. I say so. Okay. He can also command the military. Okay. That's the executive branch. Those two branches work together, and I'm sure you've heard of them. If your parents watch the news, if you've done any sort of government stuff before, you've probably heard of the legislative branch and the executive branch, Congress and the president. There's another group that maybe you haven't heard of, another branch of government, and this is called the judicial branch. Sorry, my screen keeps going crazy. The judicial branch. Okay, the judicial branch is a special group of people made up of the Supreme Court. And their job is to decide if laws follow the Constitution. The Constitution is the document that tells us what kind of government we have. So if they look at a law and they think, wait a second, this doesn't seem right, this doesn't follow what we believe as a country, they can shoot that law down. Okay. They can also decide what the laws actually mean. So they can decide that, okay, when it says this in the laws, here's what it means. Okay. If it says Miss Scott can eat cupcakes for breakfast every morning, what that actually means is she can eat cupcakes without icing. Okay. They get to decide what the laws actually mean and what they actually entail. Okay. The thing about this is these three branches work really well together, and they're all equally important. There's not one branch that's more important than the others. We've heard a lot about the president. We hear a lot about Congress, but we don't actually hear as much about the Supreme Court. But every branch of government is equally as important and is equally powerful. And that's because of something called checks and balances. You can see right up here. Okay. What that means is that if one branch gets a little bit too big for their britches, okay, they decide they're hot stuff and they want to do things their way and they don't want to listen to anybody else, the other two branches can check them. They can put them in their place and say, nah, dude, you can't do that. And it keeps the balance of power even between all three branches. So this is going to get where it gets confusing. Okay, this might be the hardest part of 5th grade social studies. And I wish that I could be with you in person. So the legislative branch, they have two jobs that they can do. Okay. They can, I got to find them on my chart. They can approve the judges chosen for the Supreme Court. That means that these guys down here actually get approved by the legislative branch. Okay. And then there's another check that the legislative branch can do, but I'm going to come back to that. Okay. The judicial branch, right here, they can actually, so I'm going to say right here, I'm actually going to say judicial branch. Okay. The judicial branch can overturn, which means make them null. They're not valued. They're not happening anymore. They just can't happen. Can overturn unconstitutional laws. That means that the laws don't follow the morals and values that we hold as a country. Okay, so they're actually checking the legislative branch. So if you look, these guys are holding these guys accountable, and the legislative branch is holding them accountable. They have a partnership. Okay, same thing happens with the president. Okay. The executive branch. The executive branch can choose who is on the Supreme Court. They choose the justices on the Supreme Court, which is a fancy way to say the judges on the Supreme Court. Can choose Supreme Court justices. Okay, which is judicial. So the executive branch and the legislative branch, they actually work together to decide who gets to be on this branch. But if the judicial branch decides that they don't love the executive branch, what they can do is they can overturn the president's actions. Oh, no, sorry, this is the wrong file. Wrong section. That goes right here. Sorry, guys. And I know this is confusing. I just want you to fill in this form today, and then we'll get to the other stuff later. So they can overturn the president's actions if they're unconstitutional. That means that if the president does something that is against what our country believes in, and they don't believe that it's right, they can say, hey, you can't do that. Like whatever decision you just made, you can't make that decision. Sorry, back it up. Back it up. Okay. So look, the judicial branch and the executive branch, they both check each other. They both make sure that they don't have too much power. Okay. The last big thing, okay, is the legislative branch and the executive branch, they actually check each other too. Okay. So what happens is when a law is made by the legislative branch, that law has to go to the president, okay? And then what the president does is he can veto the law, which means that a law is put into place, okay? The president doesn't like it, and he can say, nope, shut it down, okay? He doesn't want to do it. It's called vetoing, okay? But the legislative branch can actually check the president's power. They can almost like do a Uno reverse card, and they can say, well, actually, they can override a veto. With a 2/3 vote. Okay. What that means is that you probably know that our country has two major political parties, Democrats and Republicans, right? A lot of times they don't get along, but they're pretty evenly matched almost all the time in Congress, in this legislative branch. It's not quite 50-50, but it's usually 50-50, okay? So if the president vetoes a law and the legislative branch can come back, that Congress can come back with 2/3 of the people agreeing on something, they can actually override a veto. They can override what the president says. Nope, veto, not veto, 0. Wow, I cannot spell today. Okay. So all of these groups work together. They work together to make laws, to make decisions, to decide if the laws are good for us as a people. We have the power to help choose who's in each group, right? We vote for the people in Congress, the legislative branch. We vote for who's in the executive branch. And then together, those two people, those two groups, those branches, choose who's in the judicial branch, okay? I know this is super complicated. In fact, if you want to see how complicated it is, here's a little chart that my other class is doing right now, okay? Lots happening with this. What I want you to do today is just fill out this form so that when we meet over Zoom next, we can talk about it and break it down, okay? But basically what I want you to take away from this is two things. One, there are 3 branches of government and know their names. And then 2, they work together to get stuff done, and they work together to check each other if one group gets a little bit too powerful, okay? So today, there's another video for you to watch. There's this video for you to watch, and then you can rewatch this video if you want to, or you can just pause it here, whatever you want to do, and fill out this form on your Schoology. Okay, when you have it done, go ahead and submit it for me. That's all I need you to do today, okay? Good luck on your Math I Learn. Bye, guys.